Coach Kirby Smart had this to say after the blowout win in the Orange Bowl against Florida State.
People need to see what happened tonight, and they need to fix this. It needs to be fixed. It's very unfortunate that they, who has a good football team and a good football program, are in the position they're in. And everybody can say it's their fault and it's their own problem. All right? And everybody can say that we had our guys and they didn't have their guys. I can listen to all that. But college football has got to decide what they want. And I know things are changing. And I think things are going to change next year. And you know what? There's going to still be bowl games outside of those. People got to decide what they want and what they really want to get out of it. Because it's really unfortunate for those kids on that sideline that had to play in that game that didn't have their full arsenal. And it affected the game 100%.
All right. So in that vein, obviously he mentioned there's going to be, even with an expanded playoff, there's going to be games outside of those. But I want to ask y'all, how can we make bowl season better? Obviously, we've mentioned several games this bowl season that were just super boring. We had tons of opt-outs, and this has become a yearly thing now. But like, how can we improve it? Because so far, or especially lately, since we've gone to the bowl games that I don't want to say they don't matter, but in reality, a lot of these situations they don't in terms of competition. Now you can argue with like sponsors and things like that. Yeah, they absolutely care, but in terms of competition, it really doesn't matter. So how can we make bowl season better and kind of improve some of those things?
In
I
reality, you
I know what I
can't.
think. I want to know what y'all think.
In reality, you can't. Like legally, logistically, you you can't. You can't force them to play. At the end of the day, yes, rules have changed with NIL. They're still amateur players. They're there to play in a regular season, and you can't mandate necessarily that they play in a bowl game. They can fake an injury if they really don't want to play. There's literally nothing you can do. You can't inspire someone to play. Even if you make them play, they may not play their best, and then they'll just be pissed off out there. Outside of literally paying them to play, you can't do it.
Is there a way that we can incentivize them outside of money?
But like, I mean, they're already getting free school.
Yeah.
They're already getting free food. They already get clothes. They already get NIL money, and they want
And
to
a penthouse, apparently, if you're Caleb Williams.
Yeah, they want to continue to get NIL money, so they want to remain healthy. They don't want to risk this. What do you do to make this game feel more important? You make it a playoff game. They're already doing that. The other ones, I understand, and I feel the exact same way that Kirby does. I do, and so many other coaches have voiced concerns, and I get it, and I'm in your camp with you. But I don't, outside of getting rid of these, which they will not do because they make too much sponsor money, there is nothing to do.
Matt,
how do we make bowl season better?
I tend to agree with Jesse. I don't know if there is anything you can do. I mean, once you get outside the playoff, it's kind of one of those catch-22s. I mean, you have these bowl games, but then you have to put gimmicks with them to make people interested in them. Great
Edible
example
mascots.
is the Pop-Tart Bowl. I mean, you had the only thing that came out of that story was an edible mascot, which, by the way, was just horrendous and awful to watch a team just eviscerate and eat up a poor Pop-Tart. But regardless, I don't know if you can. I think the problem is it's the law of diminishing returns. We've got too many bowl games. They make money, yeah, sure, but the more you get, the cheaper they get. In the aspect that you don't get that return of satisfaction like you did. If you look at like how many bowls there were in like 1980, there was like 19. In 2003 there's like 26, I think. We're up to like 43 bowl games. I mean, they're playing a bowl game pretty much every day after the season wraps, and after Army Navy play, we've got bowl games coming out our ears. The problem is that when you go to that 12-team playoff, well, you're going to have those 6 games. What about the other 30 some odd bowl games. They're going to matter even less. But regardless of that, I think the only way you're going to keep kids from opting out of games is to put the stakes on the line. You've got to have somebody that has an opportunity to play for a national championship, to play in the playoff. That's the only way you're going to keep them from being in that situation. And again, I don't blame the kids for wanting to sit out. Like, who wants to, you got a chance to be a second, third round pick. You've got NFL teams that have said, hey, when you come out, we're going to give you a look. Like, who wants to blow out their knee for the Texas Bowl? Like,
We've seen it.
And we've seen it 1,000 times. Some poor kid goes out there and gets absolutely eviscerated during a play, and then he has to. I mean, we saw that with Joe Milton, or not Joe Milton, excuse me, Hendon Hooker. Granted, that was regular season, but again, that still affected his draft stock. So I mean, we've seen it 1,000 times, and I don't blame him.
What happened to Matt Corral in his bowl game? It didn't matter.
That too.
Yeah.
Same.
Maybe if we
that came back to
decide
bite
that
him.
we're going to have a celebrity guest kicker instead of a picker, and then like every PAT or field goal has to be made by like Danny DeVito. I don't.
Oh my God.
I don't
So
know.
forget getting the players to play. Let's just get people to watch. However, we can do
Well,
that.
I'm saying
yeah.
like you get a chance to hang out with Danny DeVito. Like maybe you want to.
Oh yeah, that's true.
You don't
If it's-
travel unless you
if it's-
play.
Here's the thing: if it's an interesting matchup, people are going to watch a game. Like Tennessee or Iowa, like that wasn't a huge matchup, but a lot of people watched that game because it was interesting to people. When you get like Northwestern and NC State, nobody's going to watch that. Those aren't big markets. You got to have interesting matchups. You've got to have some stakes on it. If there's no stakes on the game, nobody's going to watch it. Which is the reason why they need to get rid of the Bahamas Bowl and the Gasparilla Bowl and the ReliaQuest Bowl, and it's just go back to having 15 to 20 bowl games that matter.
Yeah.
And everybody else, you had a great season. Sorry, you didn't.
Well,
You
I'm
didn't
glad
play
you. I'm glad you mentioned that because, well, you, Grant, and I talked about this during the A&M game about how, yes, the sponsors and people want, they're going to be concerned about making money off of these games and things like that, and they don't want them to go away because of that annual attention that they get and stuff like that. But, this is not, like I said when we discussed it, Matt, this is not new information. I'm sure this has been pitched out there 1,000 times, but I mean, to me, it just really makes sense where you take these bowl games and who says you got to get rid of them necessarily? We can take them and make each one of them into a playoff game of sorts. And you say, well, that's too many games. Well, every other level of college football does it, except for the highest level. High school does it. All these other, levels do it. But why does, Division I, FBS, why can they not figure it out? Mike Leach, went through that whole spiel as well. So, if you're concerned about the sponsors, keep all the bowl games, keep all that, but just make them into playoff games, and we can adjust the numbers. Maybe we cut, a couple here and there, but by and large, you can still keep them. Who says we have to get rid of all this stuff? But since they are playoff games and since they count, that's incentive. It's not necessary, it's not like you're saying, okay, we're going to pay you to play. Not like we're forcing people to be paid in order to be in a bowl game, but they want to because the game means something. It's a national title is on the line. And then I think you eliminate a lot of these boring bowls where, you have, everyone sitting out, and we prevent a lot of these blowouts as well because people aren't sitting out. And maybe one team has a lot of players sitting out and one team doesn't, like Georgia and Florida State this year. So I don't know. That's just my take. I don't know. What do y'all think? Do you think that would be feasible?
I think it's a great idea. Let me ask you this question, Wes. What's the most successful postseason format of any of the sports? Which one gets the people most excited?
Jesse
March
said it.
Madness.
Yeah.
You've got 64 teams. Now, granted, it is a lot less work logistically to move 64 teams in basketball than it is 64 football teams. That's just the nature of the beast. But you don't have to do 64 teams. You could do 16. You could do 20. You could do 32. I mean, you can make it work. I mean, here in Georgia, our playoffs, we've got 5 different divisions, and each of those divisions in the playoffs have 32 teams in it. Yep. It's not hard to figure out. Just make it work.
I think the only issue I can see with that, like, yes, because March Madness is awesome. The games are a little bit quicker, so it's easy to watch so many in a day.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But I think if I'm doing the math and the math is mathing, the guys that win are going to have to play more football games.
Yeah.
That puts them at even higher risk for injury. And I think that's
That's
going to be their pushback. They don't want to play in a bowl game. And I know if it counts for a national championship, they're more likely to play. But they're getting put at more and more risk. We have to start the season. Well, I guess we could start at the same time, but they're going to have less time between games, maybe. I think the physical risk is what would stop that from happening, because I don't think the players would go for it. And I know they're not unionized like they are in the NFL, but we're really close to a
But
potential-
they play 16, 17, 18 games in the NFL. What's the
They
difference?
do. They do, and that's a fair point. I think it's probably for those that maybe are not going to the NFL, like I'm not going to the NFL. I know, yes, I won a national title, but do I want to break my femur on the way to it so that I'm
If
not able to go into my banking job later? Like
yeah.
I don't know.
if that's the big concern for that particular format, though, then you just reduce the amount of regular season games. You get one non-conference
Good.
game, or get rid of the non-conference games altogether, because you know you're going to be playing a non-conference opponent at the end of the season. Just go play conference games. You get one tune-up game against an FCS school, pick your poison, and then play 8 games. I mean, we only played we only played like 10 games a season back in the day.
Yeah.
So go back to that. You don't have to play 13 games in a regular season if that's the concern.
And you don't even have to play, the penalizing championship games.
Yeah, well, those need to go away anyway, because
Yeah.
they serve no purpose at this point. Because yes, you won the regular season, you won the SEC championship, yada yada, but the ultimate goal is a national championship. And if you
Right.
win the regular season record, or if you split it, it's just as good, I would say.
Well, and let's say
Or you
that
don't have you're not in a conference. You just don't play one.
Well, then
Right.
you don't get a conference championship. Notre Dame
That's what I'm
goes sit in
saying.
yeah.
It hurts some people. Not playing in it never hurts some other people.
Yeah, and we've seen that numerous times, even with teams that are in a conference where it happens. But I think even if players don't want to play, I think more will want to play, and the games will actually mean something. Because as it stands right now, they really don't. They really don't mean anything outside of the playoff games, and all you really get out of it is a pat on the back, woohoo,
and
I won.
swag.
Yeah, a pat on the back and swag. And woohoo! I mean, that's great and everything. You can say you won the Meineke whatever bowl, but yeah, I mean, I think it would incentivize a lot of people. We would see better games, and yeah, I don't know.